What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching. So if you remember in my intro video, I had mentioned that I had recently run a marathon, and I kind of wanted to just do a quick, basically documentary of how the training went, how the race went. I basically made notes on how it went, so I could look back at it and remember how things were feeling at certain points in the race, just for future reference. But yeah, so on October 9th of 2016, I did run my first marathon, the Steamtown Marathon in Northeast PA. There's my finisher's medal. Yeah, I'd never run a marathon before. It was just a spur-of-the-moment decision to do it. I'd run a couple of half marathons years back. Never really did any serious training for those. I just kind of again, spur of the moment, half-assed them. But a half marathon and a marathon are two totally different animals. And as I said in the last video, I didn't give myself a lot of time to do this. It was a last-minute decision. As I said, the news about my mom having to go into the hospital for surgery kind of spurred me on to do this. It was kind of the motivation to actually get up and do it. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I never did it. So when I made the decision to do it, it was 90 days away. As any runner that's done marathons before will tell you, that's not a lot of time. Most marathon training plans are in the 16 to 20 week range, and the start of that training plan already has you at a nice mileage base already. So you need to be running before that 16 to 20 weeks and then start your marathon training. I hadn't really been doing much of that, so I didn't really have a good base. And then I tried to squeeze mileage building as well as marathon training into that 90 days. And it got me into a little bit of trouble. I was dealing with some nagging injuries. I was behind on my schedule as far as the runs, the long runs I was trying to do. I got stuck at half marathon distance for several weeks. I couldn't really get anything much above that. My furthest run prior to the race was 15 miles. And it hurt to get that in. The next couple days afterwards, I was really having some aches and pains. So the final 2 weeks prior to the race, I really took it easy. I did, some short 3 to 5 mile runs during the second to last week, and then in the final week, I basically took the whole week off. Rested up, hoping that the Achilles tendonitis in my left foot and my IT band pain in my right knee would subside enough to get me through that marathon. But 15 miles being my longest distance, now I'm having to tack on 11 more miles to get to full race distance. So I wasn't feeling very confident. The majority of my long runs had been done at a pace between 11 and 12 miles per minute. So based on that, I was like, well, if I can maintain 11:30 or so miles per minute, just maintain that and treat it as a long training run, I just wanted to get through it. My goal was to finish. So that was the mindset I went in with. The morning of the race, it was actually pretty chilly. The start of the race, it was only about 45 degrees and it was windy. But that kind of temperatures in a race is actually pretty decent. That 45 to 55 degrees is actually feels pretty nice once you get going and your body warms up. So at the starting line, I basically kept telling myself, don't go out too fast. Don't go out too fast. If anybody knows Steamtown Marathon, it's a mostly downhill course. It drops almost 1,000 feet in elevation from start to finish. There are some small hills, several in the last couple miles, which are killer. I'll get to those later. But the first 6 to 8 miles is really downhill. There's some steep downhills, and a lot of the advice that people were giving that had run before was don't try to go out too fast and bank time, because you'll beat up your quads, and then by the end of the race you won't have anything left. So I kept telling myself, don't go out too fast, don't go out too fast. 11:30 miles, 11:30 miles, maintain 11:30. The gun went off. Started out pretty nice pace. It was a big line of people there. There was 2,100 people or so running the race. So a little bit slow getting started, but started settling into a nice cadence. And then mile 1 hit, and I looked down at my watch, and I had run a 10:34 first mile. So I was like, okay, that was a little fast. Let's try to slow it down a little bit. Mile 2 rolled around, and it was a 10:28. So I'm like, man, I'm really going out too fast. Time to throttle it back. So I intentionally slowed down. Third mile, it was a 10:52, so still faster than what I was originally anticipating, but slower. But it didn't feel good running at that pace. Just something about my stride, my cadence didn't feel good. So the next mile, I picked it back up to where I felt comfortable again, and I ran a 10:31, and it was like, okay, that feels good. Let's see how long I can maintain this. Let me see what I can do. Keep it going. Miles 5 through 9, it was, like I said, that nice downhill. I settled into a nice cadence, settled into the race. Right about mile 8 was the first viewpoint where I got to see my family. I brought my family there, and there was several viewpoints that were set up along the way for people to watch. And mile 8 was the first point that I saw my family. I saw my boys and my wife, and that gave me a little shot of adrenaline and helped me keep going. Miles 10 to 13, I was feeling really good. I started pushing the pace a little bit more. I started dropping it down into the 10:20s. And by the time I hit the halfway point, half marathon distance, I had smashed my half marathon personal best by over 10 minutes. So it was at that point where I kind of acknowledged the fact that, short of getting hurt, getting injured, I'm gonna finish a marathon today. I don't know what my time was gonna be at that point, but I was gonna finish. Short of getting injured, I was gonna finish, because I'd already gone halfway and I was still feeling really good. So right about mile 15, I realized that now I'm in unknown territory now. This is the farthest distance I've ever run in my life. I've never run further than this. So every step I take is now the furthest distance I've ever run in my life. But I'm still feeling really good. The fast laps are still coming out. Mile 17, I passed my family again for the second time. It was almost a surprise. Like, I knew where the viewpoint was going to be, but I'd passed by a group of people and I didn't see my family. So I was like, well, maybe they didn't make it or whatever. They went straight to the finish. So I almost got it out of my head that I was going to see the family, and I kept running, and all of a sudden I saw them. My boys came running out, giving me high fives. My oldest ran along with me for a little while, and again I got that shot of adrenaline, pushing forward. And at that point, I kind of came to the realization that I'm running well ahead of what I was expecting to finish. I was expecting going in to finish in the 5-hour, 5+ range. And I knew at that point I was well under that. It was the first time I'd really thought about how how long or how much time that I was going to finish in. I hadn't done the math in my head, but at that point I realized I'm going to do this a lot quicker than I thought I was. Mile 18, for the first time in the race, the pace that I was at started getting a little bit more difficult. I was having to work harder to maintain that 10:30-ish pace. And then right about, I guess, the midway to the second half of mile 19 is where the wheels started to fall off a little bit. I tweaked my knee. Something in my knee popped, and it really hobbled me at first. I couldn't keep running. I had to stop, and I was limping. And at that point, just because of the suddenness and how quick that pain came on, I thought I was done. I didn't know what had happened, but I thought the race was over for me. But I decided I was gonna walk it out for a little bit, see what would happen. So I walked for probably about a half a mile. I walked. It started feeling a little bit better, so I was like, well, let me try to start jogging a little bit more. So slowly started to pick up my pace, started to pick up the jog again, and it was feeling all right. So I was like, I'm gonna press on. I'm gonna keep going. The pain never really came back. I don't know what it was that had happened, but as quick as it came, it was gone, and it never came back. So thankful for that. I'm probably about to mile 21. I kept that pace going. Miles 22 to 25. Arguably the worst moments of my life, probably. It was just plain torture. People will talk about hitting the wall. I don't know if that was what happened. I never really felt like my body gave out on me. Everything was hurting. My legs were hurting, my knees, my ankles, just from the constant pounding. The bottoms of my feet, my toes, everything was just hurting, and my brain is screaming at me, and it's not worth it. Just call it a day, cut it out. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I came this far. I'll be damned if I'm gonna run 25 miles and give up now. But really, that last 10K was rough. It was probably the hardest 10K of my life. Definitely the hardest 10K of my life. But as I cross mile 25, I come to the realization that I'm a mile away from finishing a marathon. So again, that adrenaline comes up, and one thing I will say about Steamtown, it's got a real small town feel to it, and a lot of the course winds through different townships, and there's a lot of people out there cheering for the runners, which is awesome. It really gives you a boost of energy, especially in those last few miles. Miles 20, probably 24 through the end, there's a couple killer hills that by themselves wouldn't really be, they're not huge hills, but the placement of them at miles 24, mile 25 of a marathon, it's brutal, and it's really a kick in the gut. But you're grinding through it. You have people cheering you on the whole way, and it really helps you get through that tough section of the course. But yeah, mile 26, the crowds are cheering you on. You got the adrenaline pumping. You're about to finish a marathon. And I started pushing the pace again. Started feeling really good. I come up over the top of the last hill. I got 0.2 of a mile left, 1/10 of a mile left, and I'm cruising into the finish, and at this point, there's so many people that I have no idea where my family's at. I know that they're there, but I have no idea where to look. I'm exhausted anyway, so I'm just like, let me get to the finish line as fast as I can. All of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I just see something coming towards me. It startled me at first, and I look over, and it's my boys. They ran out from behind the guardrails on the side, and they start running along with me to the in the last however many 50 yards of the race, and it was a really cool moment. It was really emotional. Kind of choked me up almost to the point of tears, but seeing that gave me a little bit, again, that last bit of energy I had. I surged towards the finish, and I crossed the finish line. Got my medal, put it around my neck, and kind of dropped down to a knee and started to think about how things had gone. I'll tell you what, if you've never run a marathon before, and you do, you'll experience this. If you have run one before, you know what I'm talking about. That in the span of however long it takes you to run a marathon, but for me, in the span of 5 hours from the waiting for the race to start until it finished, I went through just about every human emotion you can think of. There was lows, there was highs, everything in between, and in the end, it was kind of a crazy accomplished feeling. Less than 1% of the population will ever run a marathon. That's an elite group to be in. Even if you're like me and you're just an average, ordinary dude, I'm not breaking any records. I'm never gonna be in the Olympics. I'm never gonna be an elite marathoner. But just being in that group of people who have finished a marathon, you're already in an elite group. You're already in a group of people that's so small in comparison to the population of the country, of the world. Yeah, it's something special, and it really hits you once you do it. As I said in my other video, this was always planned to be a one and done thing. I was going to run this marathon, and then I was never going to do one ever again. It takes a lot of time to train and prepare for a marathon, which I didn't even do properly. I didn't even do fully, and I didn't think I wanted to dedicate that much time again to doing it. I wanted to do it to say I did it and then never do it again. And as I said, during training, during the race, I had several of those moments where I said, I will absolutely never do this again. But in the hours and days following, the thought started to creep back in my mind about, man, if I would have trained properly, I wonder what I could have done. My goal in this was to finish it. I just wanted to do it. But now I've decided to do it again. I've set a pretty ambitious goal, I think, in my opinion, of knocking 48 minutes off of my time and doing a sub 4 hour marathon. That's a lot of time to knock off of a marathon in 1 year. But as I said before, I think with the lack of training this year combined with the proper amount of training next year, I think it's an achievable goal. And we'll see how far under that 4 hours I can get, but that's the goal, sub 4 hours. And we'll see how it goes. I really want to do this again. Honestly, I think this might be a regular thing for me now. I might do a marathon every year. I might do 2. I'll definitely do some other races every year too. I'll do some 5Ks and 10Ks, maybe some half marathons in there. My overall goal would be to qualify for Boston somewhere down the line. I know that's not a realistic goal for me at this time, but I think in the years coming, that will be a goal of mine, to qualify for Boston and run that marathon. It's probably a few years off into the future right now, but we'll see how things progress in the next year to 2 years, and we'll see if I can push for that. But yeah, so that's my marathon experience, my very first marathon. I want to put it out there that anybody, if you don't have any kind of physical challenges that would limit you from running, and even then, there are people that do this with unimaginable physical limitations and still get out there and do this kind of stuff. But if you're not injured in some way, anybody can run a marathon. Now, I'm not saying you're going to run it in a blazing fast time, but anybody can do it. It's just a matter of wanting or being willing to dedicate the time to train for it. It's not out of the realm of possibility for anybody out there to do this. You just have to want to do it. It's possible. I'm living proof of that. I say it all the time. I'm an average, ordinary dude that was trying to do something more than average and ordinary. I put my mind to it and I did it. And there was countless other people out there, thousands of people, that were doing the same exact thing. 99% of the people that entered that marathon had no ambition of winning that race. They had no chance of winning that race. They were out there to challenge the course, to challenge themselves, and again, do something that most people never do. No, most people never attempt. And that's saying something. So it just goes to show you that you can do it. If you really want to do it, you can get out there and do it. There's plenty of information out there. If you don't have anybody personally that runs, that can give you help and advice, there's plenty of information out there on the internet. Hit me up. Let me know if you're interested in trying it. You've never run a day in your life, or maybe you've run a 5K before and you're looking to step it up. Whatever it is, let me know. Hit me up, and I'm no expert either. I'm no running coach, but I've done it. I've been through it. I've run a lot in my lifetime. I'll be glad to help you out any way I can. Please hit me up in the comments if you got any questions. I'll be glad to give you any kind of information I have. That's all I got today. I just wanted to put this out there. My first marathon experience. Hit me up. Do you got a similar story? I'm always glad to hear other people's stories. I can chat about this stuff all day long. So until next time, guys, have fun, man. We'll see you later.